I will start with a short introduction of the panel and just putting a few trends and thoughts that I've gathered as preparation so that we have funding of life science companies, having in mind Corona and in the Corona times of how it started to be called during this conference, the zeitgeist, and also how we expect that the funding of life science companies will go ahead after the Corona times. Actually, I'm sitting together in this very exciting panel with Mr. Gary Ashford from UK London, from Harbottle and Greece. We are having on board Mr. Vladimir Danailov, who is CEO and member of the executive board of the Fund of Funds in Bulgaria, actually important funding institution. We are having Milen Ivanov as a representative of the Bulgarian business, the CEO Angel Group, sorry, and he's also running an early stage fund. And we have Mr. Georgi Natchev, who is digital therapeutics evangelist, and a close friend. So as promised, I will lay down a few global trends that are connected to life science funding, and basically what we see and what we can put together as a conclusions are that the development of many projects in the life sciences and biotech sector are frozen due to Corona. Say a whole bunch of cancer-oriented studies were stopped due to Corona because they usually are having as a side effect immunosuppression, which makes people subjects involved in that studies much more susceptible to the infection. So for safety reasons, those were stopped. Also, we see that investors are currently tempted for much more liquid investment opportunities, and basically this could lead to a 6 to 12 months funding gap for biotech companies. On the other hand, for a little bit longer perspective, let's say 12 to 24 months, the analysts expect a larger interest in investments in life sciences sector, because basically the Corona crisis have shown to the investors the huge need of developing innovation in that area. Also, from the point of view of biotech company, it is expected that biotechs will prefer co-commercialization deals, which is basically a term that says that they will give up earlier on their projects and will give up to bigger companies a bigger portion of their intellectual property, thus reducing the risk and the needed cash flow to fund the bringing to the market of the product itself. Also, there is a very interesting trend that was very clear during the 2008 financial crisis, and it was towards early stage patenting deals, so that the biotechs are able to collect cash flow earlier and potentially fund their next projects. and it's expected to see the same cycle of development also during the COVID-19 crisis. On the other hand, there is a full new trend that was basically not existing until beginning of actually March this year, and this is the development of the so-called COVID-19 related threats from the point of view of the biotechs, and those are heavily public funded. Yeah, there are two perspectives. On one hand, it seems that the governments and above government organizations have decided to follow a strategy of funding more options and thus trying to support as many projects as possible, so that at the end a feasible solution for the COVID situation is found. On the other hand, from the perspective of the investors and also the biotech companies, it seems that on the COVID-19 vaccines and also treatment field, there will be a huge competition on one hand. On the other hand, the heavy public funded for the development, and also the big role of the governments for the reimbursement of the treatments. It's highly possible that those wouldn't be very financially lucrative assets for the companies, which sets a question marks how the next projects will be funded. And last but not least, the Corona crisis has caused huge operational disruptions for many VC biotech companies, which has of course slowed down the development and put back their pipelines. So having those trends and constraints in mind, I would like to open the panel for the panelists and give the word to Mr. Gary Ashford to share his views and his thoughts on the topic, how life sciences funding looks like currently and would like to look after Corona, or the way we came beyond it. So Gary, it's my pleasure to have you on the panel, and floor is yours.
Thank you, Jivko. Georgi, how are the slides being made available? How are the slides working? Are Theodora putting the slides up? Are we sharing? How do we do it?
My other clone, Georgi Natchev, will give you the presenter rights in a second. Okay,
thank you very much. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak today, and thank you again for inviting me to the atelier, Jivko, and co-presenters and the organisers of the event. I very much enjoyed attending in person last year, and as those who know me will know me, I'm a big fan of Bulgaria from this perspective, and the support that Bulgaria are giving to this aspect of the marketplace. So I'm a significant supporter and always will be, and I wish all the great success to the atelier for this year and for many years to come. I'm still waiting for the slides. To.
Thank you, Gary. This is really touching, and we're really looking forward to have you offline next year, hopefully.
No, I will make a point of getting here.
Yeah. Gary, you actually already have the presenter rights. Would you like to just share them?
Yeah. How do I do that? Apologies.
On the bottom of the screen, you have the share button, and given you have your slides open, all you need to do is choose the respective app.
It worked. Can you see them?
It's loading. Yes.
Good.
Yes, there we go.
Okay, so I'll only speak sort of 10 minutes, as along with the other panelists, as Jivko said. I've been asked to speak about some of the issues around investment in the biotech sector at the moment, and what we see to come in the years ahead. I mean, the UK, like all the countries who are involved in today's event, have seen clearly significant development or significant challenge as a result of COVID-19. And COVID-19 is clearly a major effector on all of the things that we're discussing today, both in terms of, I think, bringing particular focus to the sector in generally and the various subsectors, but also in terms of challenges for future investment or opportunities for future investment. Today's event is very timely from a UK perspective, is that some of you who are not as UK focused may not be aware of the Chancellor's announcements in the last couple of hours. And so, one of the big challenges in the UK was the ending of our job retention scheme. And that what was the main piece of armoury in the UK approach to COVID? It was to save jobs. And so part of that saving jobs was what we call the job retention scheme, the furlough scheme. And as you can see on the slide, to date it's cost about 34 billion sterling in terms of keeping people in work. Now, the biggest challenge our economy currently faces was going to be that the furlough scheme was going to end in October. And those of you, who are aware of the UK are not back to lockdown, but are certainly on an amber warning towards lockdown. And so there was great concern as to, with the end of the furlough scheme, lots of people losing their jobs. Today, the Chancellor's announced a sort of a supplementary scheme that will start at the post job retention scheme, which is not as generous as the job retention scheme. The job retention scheme is actually paid about 80% of a person's wages on the basis that they were not working. But the new system will pay more like, I think the overall effective amount will probably be 22%. You still need to be in work, and but as long as you're in work, then the government will pay a proportion of those wages. I think you need to be operating almost at a third of the level that you were previously. So the job retention scheme is very important in understanding the wider economy of the UK, because the numbers are significant, and also it affects the number of people available for work. Now, many will, you'll immediately recognise that most of the people who are a high proportion of the people who are affected in the worst positions in terms of job security are those in things like hospitality, leisure, sectors that we're not talking about here. So on one level, the sectors that we're talking about here are less affected by people losing their jobs. If anything, you could possibly find a shortfall in people simply because of what I see as an increase in the sector as we go ahead, as we go forward. But one of the specific challenges of some of these government schemes is how can you work for someone else? What can you do? There are some restrictions in how you operate, and so therefore, the government COVID armoury has some knock-on effect into the effectively the sector itself, both in terms of those running a firm, running a business, and seeking capital, but also those who are actually sort of thinking about investing in the future. It will have a financial impact, even if not directly, indirectly. One of the other aspects that the government introduced was the business interruption loan scheme, which allowed entrepreneurs to potentially borrow up to £5 million in loans, and essentially, use those loans when business was light during COVID. And many organisations will have taken that up, even if they didn't necessarily need the funding. One of the things that's quite important to appreciate is that the bills, the business interruption loan amounts to state aid, so potentially could have an impact in terms of R&D in the sector. So you can already see that some of the government initiatives, whilst most welcome, you have to be quite aware of them. Also in a sector that's really quite vibrant. Now, turning to investment itself. So what we have had, there's the British the Biotech Association published some figures, I think, in September. So they're relatively up to date. And in quarter two of 2020, we've seen overall investment of 585 million in terms of new capital coming into the industry. And then you can see that as against a quarter one figure of 309 million. And obviously then you can see sort of the last quarter 2009 is 405 million. So the money is still flows. And also, if you look at the next bullet point there, of great interest is the fact that 2020 has seen in the first half of 2020 has seen overall about 894 million coming into all aspects of the industry. And if you compare that to what was a very vibrant year, 2018. It's up on that. So on one level, there is definitely some good news around the financials of the industry. You can then sort of break some of that down, and if you look at venture capital money, essentially you've got 471 million as venture capital. Clearly, one of the stickouts there is the IPOs are zero during the period. And I think that, this is where you can start to see possibly some trends coming in terms of the money that's coming through, and possibly some where the challenges are. So, there's definitely venture capital money. IPOs are sort of, possibly at a halt. Maybe that's understandable. And follow-on finance is 423 million. Now, whilst I think it's almost the same part of the same point with the last slide. There's no doubt that COVID-19 has brought a focus on the industry that it clearly, or the sector, it was clearly in the spotlight to some level. It's been, in the UK, I think we've got a bioscience sector of, about 75 billion, possibly, going on to 100 billion. So it's quite it's clearly a very sizable sector, and important to the UK economy. But COVID clearly has brought that spotlight, and definitely you'll have seen, and I'm sure everyone else has seen, a shift of finance and more towards COVID projects. And so development of specific, whether it's vaccines or, anything, associated with vaccines will clearly have attracted attention and have attracted funding. The challenge with that then is, other projects are either postponed or literally either sort of aborted or certainly put on hold in the short term. So there's a mixed bag there, depending on what area of the industry you're actually in. And just to build on that venture capital figure, that the UK has got a contribution of about 348 million. Europe, including the UK, is about 900 million. But we can all see the giant there, which is the US, in terms of 4.7 billion there. So we've all got a long way to go before we get anywhere close to the success of the US. The other thing that I think, I'm an international tax partner, so I spend a lot of my time in that tax world working with the IP side of things, and so I think the other area that I think is particularly important to be aware of is the wider changes taking place both in international tax, but because of those changes, in what way will actually have a knock-on effect to finances in general, is the introduction of the OECD type revision to the tax model around base erosion profit shifting. BEPS was introduced in 2012. And then it was followed up with a whole bunch of action plans in 2015 that certainly the EU countries and the UK have all largely adopted. And what they do is they've put on a number of restrictions, and there's a lot of new boundaries in terms of the way international tax is structured. For example, BEPS 5, there's 15 action plans. BEPS 5 brought in a sort of recommendations around harmful tax practices. That has led to revisions to most countries' patent box. The UK changed patent box, and most EU countries have changed it. If they had a patent box, they've changed their patent box rules. And what those patent box rules really did was align R&D spend much more with almost the patent box relief for reduced patent income, and that in itself will have a direct or indirect effect, simply because companies looking to strategize and take account of their R&D, and there are some fundamental restrictions, most notably the limitation of outsourcing R&D to connected companies within a group. That you may now see an increase in R&D subcontracting to non-group members, just simply to increase your R&D relief. So there'll be some industry impact from that. There's also BEPS 5 has also introduced significant changes in what you would call low and zero taxation territories. So many of those countries that might have historically proved to be the home of a license agreement, possibly those license agreements are having to leave those specific jurisdictions or be moved from those jurisdictions because the R&D is taking place somewhere else, and the particular activities linked to the licensing are somewhere else. So international tax will have an impact on business itself, as it always has done, but I think more significantly in the next few years than before. BEPS 8 to 10 that has introduced much more stringent rules around transfer pricing, again have an impact on licensing agreement. And BEPS 12, which is a new EU effectively reporting regime. The EU have introduced DAC 6 around BEPS 12, which again will provide a lot more transparency around reporting, but that will include things like transfer pricing and license agreements and various other matters. So there's a lot of change going on in the tax world that will have a knock-on effect back in terms of investment and the way businesses are operating, how businesses will develop their profit position, and clearly that will have a knock-on effect to potential future investors. I'm conscious of time, Jivko, so I've done my bit. Hopefully that you found that helpful.
Thank you, Gary. Actually, extremely helpful point of view, and also giving us the opportunity to tackle what's happening in the world around, and that's really helpful. And I have a chance to give the floor to Mr. Danailov, who shared his views and actually what's happening around in Bulgaria and in Bulgarian funding scene. Vladimir, the floor. Yeah, thank you, guys.
Hello, everyone. Jivko, do you hear me well?
Yes, great.
Very good. Thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. Very interesting, actually, and thank you very much for invitation as a whole. As I said this morning, I'm very happy from the developments of the biotech and life science industries in the last couple of years. Just as a summary, like I think the first cluster was established in 2018, and now 3 years later we have like the biotech cluster, digital health and innovation cluster. We have a really new ecosystem of companies, scientists, researchers, engineers emerged in the field of healthcare technology, life sciences, etc. But of course, as we discussed so far, the COVID year came as a very unpleasant surprise for everyone. I believe that, and pretty much we see it, like we observe what's happening with the startup, with the small companies in the biotech field. Some of them, they've been at the stage that they're validating their product and they were about to research for finance to develop their product. Or some companies are already making their move to conquer international markets, so they need let's say resources for international expansion. And then the COVID year now, and probably some of them are in a collapse. So I'm going to tell what we, the institutions that I'm representing right now, what we are doing, and what we have to offer for the businesses in Sofia and in Bulgaria, and of course the international businesses that are located in Bulgaria too. A few words about the organization that I'm representing. I'm part of institutions with the name finance manager of fund of funds. We are managing financial instruments in Bulgaria, and our mission is to improve the access to finance for small and medium enterprises, startups, innovative and traditional companies. Of course, biotech and life science companies are among that list. How do we do that? We manage financial resource of 5 European aid programs. Probably in Bulgaria, Bulgarians know that those are called like operational programs or so. The total resource is around 6 million euro. And when I say we manage those resources, means we structure financial instruments, we select fund managers, banks or equity funds that are actually talking to the final beneficiaries, hence the companies, hence the biotech companies from Bulgaria. What is our goal and what is initially this financial resource about it? It is to support innovation development within companies, startups in all industries in Bulgaria. Why innovation is so important? I believe that was discussed the whole day at the Biotech Atelier, and also it's going to be discussed tomorrow, because innovation is translated into competitive advantage, and the competitive advantage is allowing the companies to sustain their position on the global market. So we want Bulgarian companies or companies that are doing business in Bulgaria, that could be also foreign investments, to be competitive on the global market from Bulgaria. And very often the innovation creation process is a process that put the company into the high-risk segment. And when the company is into the high-risk segment, especially now under the COVID circumstances, the number of organizations, banks or financial institutions that are willing to bank this, to back up this high-risk company is diminishing. So here we are coming into the game. We are coming here through our instruments. We got 2 main categories of instruments. First category, those are the debt products. Those are loans or guarantees. And the second main category, those are the equity products. Those are different equity funds that are managing equity resources. So what do we have for business from now on, even now for the COVID time, and also for the time beyond COVID? The first category, those are the debt instruments. Those are loans that we provide through banks. So now we have already a contract with UniCredit, and also with Foreign Investment Bank, also with 2 microfinancing institutions, Credit and Microfund. So what is the benefit for the business from those organizations? Companies can get loan for reduced collateral or with smaller interest rates. So this is the first category. And now for the COVID especially, we are launching a new product, probably in the mid-October. It's going to be also launched by the bank. Already 9 banks in Bulgaria applied, and 4 of those banks were the largest banks. So we are backing them up with guarantees, which is going to produce something between 350 and 450 million euro of loan portfolio on the market. And this resource is going to be for companies, for startups, for everyone on the market. And what is going to be the benefit for the business? This is going to be, again, reduced interest rate or reduced collateral rate. So this is about our debt instruments. And our second main category, those are the equity instruments. I would like to share the news that since last Monday, our 4th equity fund entered into the investment mode. And we got 3 more equity funds that are running since August last year. And now we have a portfolio of 4 equity funds that are dealing with different segments of the market. That means that no matter at what stage of development is a particular company or a startup, there is a fund manager that is going to back up their operations. Even if they're at the very initial seed, pre-seed, acceleration mode, or they are further to in the mode to validate their products, or probably when they are in a more advanced stage, we have fund managers that are going to back up the operations of those companies. What is also something that is not very widely known at the market, that those institutions, our partners that we select that are managing the resource that is coming from us, those are institutional investors that are not willing to take part into the operational management of a given startup or company. They are willing to take something between 20-30% of the equity of the company, which means this company from day one is going to adapt their operations and their business models to collaborate with institutional investors. So let's say a company that uses such type of investments or financing, let's say equity funds, once they let's say get into a deal with one of our funds, 3-5 years from now, when they grow up, probably they are going to be a very good match for some European, pan-European, or a global fund, which probably is going to be a strategic fund that is going to come with customers. So we see our job as a mission, and we are trying to promote this type of finance among startups and small and medium enterprises from all sectors in Bulgaria. Also, I would like to share that, especially for COVID, this is something that is going to kick in probably in a week time, probably at the beginning of October. There's going to be an additional resource of around 20 million euro, which is going to be distributed among those 4 fund managers. And this resource is going to be with a framework that is approved by the European Commission, and it's going to be a relief framework. So businesses and startups could benefit from this relief for investors framework, which means startups could hurry up and engage our fund managers with the conversations for potential investments. So I'm going to stay here. I'm going to be glad if I receive some questions about our instruments and how else we can support the startups and the small and medium segment of the Bulgarian economy.
Thank you, Vladimir. Really very interesting. As you know, I have a personal dream and mission to see the Bulgarian life sciences startup ecosystem growing, as we did see in our lifespan the IT startup ecosystem growing. And I really think that the financing part of the equation is extremely important to really be able to bring a stable fundamental for that transition. And I would like to also give the floor to Mr. Milen Ivanov, who is running the only active business angel network in Bulgaria currently. Milen, am I correct?
Yes, I'm running probably the only active one. That's why we are the biggest. CO Angels Club is now 55 members. We have a chapter in UK, which is just starting, and we have 5 members there. We're targeting people from the Bulgarian diaspora to support Bulgarian startups. We're opening a chapter also in Vienna next month. We'll see how it goes, but it looks like that there is enough momentum and interest to support Bulgarian tech startups. I am also an evaluator at the European Commission, the Horizon 2020 program. That's the previous name now. It's called Invest Europe for biotech and health tech projects. I can compare, I mean, the different type of markets. So on European level, there is a lot more going on compared to what's happening here in Bulgaria in life science, unfortunately. That's why I share your mission and vision to have more projects like this coming from where we come from. The other things that I'm also doing, we are starting Angel Co-Investment Fund together with as main LP, the European Investment Fund called Sophia Angel Ventures, who will actually co-invest with angels on seed level, starting from tickets from 200,000 up to 500,000 euro for the first round, and maybe go to 1 million. But as mentioned, there is not a lot going on in life science in Bulgarian, but of course, I think that the COVID crisis managed to accelerate a lot of processes in this direction. On one level, we saw some slowdown in terms of investments. Definitely on angel level, there have been a slowdown since March, where people started to be more cautious and more careful to see what's going on. But on another level, we think that a lot of projects that were previously postponed are kind of gathered courage and strength to do something. Of course, twisting it into the direction of adapting it to the COVID crisis. We've seen a lot of projects in telemedicine, AI, real-time data related projects, so that actually directed to the direction of drug discovery and personalized medicine, which were I mean, we didn't see before, and now these are coming also not only from Bulgaria but from Eastern Europe. So what I think that on a startup level, the seed level of the startups, in terms of operations, in terms of let's say feeling the crisis, in terms of not having enough clients or clients postponing and canceling deals, was not that obvious, but we will see it now in the autumn and the winter, where I think that the Western markets will really start to have also a financial crisis following that one. I mean, following this unemployment trends that we've been seeing on TV until now. But from another perspective, I think that in Bulgaria, in particular, we will have a lot more money, which will kind of balance the startup ecosystem. And of course, maybe the angels will gather more courage to co-invest together with all these funds that are being actually supported by the fund of funds and other funds that are actually starting to operate in Bulgaria, although not really registered here. It's going to be interesting and exciting time. I'm sure that we will see a lot of companies closing, but we will also see a lot of opportunities being created and some of the models being changed. And it will take a while, but we will go through it. And I mean, at the moment, at the beginning of the crisis, when it was March, April, May, I was very scared. And now I don't know why, because of the summer, things were kind of soothing. And now I see companies coming back, being more confident, clients ordering again, and angel investors to start to ask for for good deals to invest in. I'm open to questions that are related to angels and startups in the region. So that was my 50 cents in terms of presentation. Hello,
I'm obviously talking on mute. Thank you very much. It was really interesting and to hear how you are advancing and how the financing part of the infrastructure is developing. This is really needed. And now, last but not least, I'm giving the floor to Mr. Georgi Natchev to share his views and thoughts. Georgi, it's your floor.
Thank you, Jivko. First of all, thanks for the invite. It is a real pleasure being on the panel today with all these panelists. I find the topic of life science funding in Corona times particularly timely and extremely interesting. And it actually comes for me at least, for three different angles. First of which would be industry, then funding, and the third pillar from my perspective would be the society aspect of things. So on the industry level, it seems for me that, it's already shared, different verticals and segments of the business as a whole are experiencing dramatic changes since the kick-in of Corona crisis. But on the same time, looking at the pharma companies, it seems that everybody's getting extremely focused on a very tiny, almost like a laser pinpoint focus field. Basically, everybody trying to invent, obviously, the COVID prevention solution or better treatments, which obviously drives at least two very interesting drivers with it. One of which being the money that is being spent, or the funding that is going towards R&D and funding of projects devoted one way or another on COVID-19. But on the other hand, it also drives attention away from everything else. So this pillar for me brings interesting times ahead of us. On the one hand, for a lot of high expectations, and I guess even sorrow unmet goals, because big guys are betting big right now, and a lot of them are going to fail, which is a natural part of the process. However, this leads with itself also plunges and changes in their pricing of the stock and so on, and also the trust of their investors. On the other hand, the public attention is steered quite heavily towards the COVID aspect and topic, whilst it seems that a lot of other healthcare industries, or let's say healthcare areas with chronic disease, cancer research, personalized medicine, and so on, are getting a little bit neglected. So right now they're getting a little bit overshadowed. So I would expect, let's say, a little bit of a pickup in other healthcare areas which are being neglected right now, and probably we are still just about to start finding out about the developments. And then the second pillar, and I'm going to try to be as short as possible so that we have enough time for the discussion, would be the funding aspect of things, where, while the pharma industry is betting big on COVID vaccine and COVID prevention, it seems that private funds and also startups are looking more and more into the COVID direction. So starting with Q1 to 20. A lot of various different startups in digital health, but also nutrition and a bunch of other areas are trying to give themselves a new polish and pivot, at least on branding wise, but some of them even more into the direction of COVID being a very trendy and relevant topic from their perspective for gaining more market. So this I would expect can bring a little bit of a attention steering again towards COVID, and perhaps in certain cases a little bit less more into the key focus area, or at least the key focus area that used to be the current one before that. And the third pillar is obviously the society, which nowadays is going through a big turbulence in all lifestyle aspects in healthcare and everything else and whatnot. Apologies. So the society is looking into the developments again in both directions. On one end, everybody is being extremely curious and also quite hopeful for the finding of the corona vaccine, and extremely cheerful when some good news come up, but also very, very mean once it turns out that those news are actually either fake news or let's say lacking enough proof. But on the other hand, the healthcare aspect of the society is also going through major changes, especially the mental and physical one, now that we are increasingly spending time at home, doing the mantra of social distancing. Luckily right now we are not in a lockdown for now, but everybody's obviously expecting, as some of the other panelists already mentioned. So people are getting actually, I guess, in a worse shape healthcare wise, physically, but also mentally, because staying at home and the whole social distancing thing is definitely a very new aspect for all of us. And many people are not necessarily prepared how to come along well or come right good out of that, and still find a balance. Would it be work-life balance or also balancing their personal time, so that they can really not only feel well about themselves, but also feel healthy and positive and happy about life. So the third pillar, society, obviously will not only bring a huge pressure for finding the vaccine that everybody is speculating should be coming around the corner, but most likely will take at least some year or two more down the road before we have it, but also a bunch of other aspects like mental health, for example, depressions, panic attacks, and so on, are increasingly becoming very timely topics, as many people are nowadays working more, spending less time with social activities, and perhaps exercising the social distancing a little bit too much for being really healthy for them on. So with that, I would actually like to pass by the ball back to Jivko, so that we have enough time for a lively discussion, as I think each of us already outlined at least a couple of very interesting angles for the audience.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, I would like to start with a question to you, while we are also accepting questions from the attendees. As one of the co-founders and the CEO of, I think, the only company that's working towards a digital therapeutic in Bulgaria, I would like to hear your opinion about the way of basically starting up such type of company that's an intersection in information technology and healthcare in a marketplace like Bulgaria. So it will be really interesting to share a few thoughts about your way from the beginning until now, which is kind of a ready prototype.
Yes, thank you. That's a wonderful question, gladly. So a little bit of a background. I'm currently working on a digital therapeutic in the area of mental health. and helping people to avoid falling into the trap of burnout, but also getting out as swiftly and gently as possible from the earlier stages of a burnout. Now, this being developed in Bulgaria definitely is a very, very interesting story, and I'm sure it will remain in the history, at least for myself, if nothing else. That in Bulgaria, we actually nowadays have, I guess, a little bit of free money floating around. So I think and believe that funding-wise, it is a great place to start with a company. Despite the tickets not necessarily being on par with probably other countries, I think there are plenty of good reasons for starting here. First, we have a great labor force, very endurant. We are creative in finding new solutions, and mostly we are not afraid going that extra step and jumping into the cold water before actually learning how to swim. Now, in terms of the topic, digital therapeutics, as Jivko mentioned at the beginning, is something like a passion for myself already by now, because I really believe that digital therapeutics are going to be the next big wave for truly innovating within healthcare and turning upside down the established status quo models in a variety of areas, including physical, mental, and behavior ones. For either increasing efficacy and efficiency of existing solutions, but also finding completely new ways for more cost efficient, but also better and more personalized treatments to the individual.
Okay, thank you, Georgi. And now I would like to turn back to the panel with maybe a general statement that I would like to hear everybody that has something on his mind to comment. But so basically, the answer to the economic situation due to COVID of the states of the Federal Reserves was to double their assets, meaning to print something like $5 trillion until the end of the year. While on the other hand, we in Europe decided to be a bit more conservative and don't play that much with the money supply. Still, we all agree that innovation is a vital part of human development, and on the other hand, we all agree that innovation is expensive. I would like to hear your thoughts on how and who will pay the bill for the innovation that's currently deadly needed, also in terms of Corona, and also in terms of other areas of development and basically bringing deep science research in the hands of the consumers. So this could be government financed projects. This could be tax incentives. So every thought on that, because I think that gathering such type of group together is extremely valuable for putting ideas and maybe generating new ideas on how we could move forward to really have the innovation that we need now as consumers.
Do you want me to start, Jivko?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start and be very brief so everyone else gets an opportunity. I think the question is extremely interesting. Almost going back to some of the things that I talked about in terms of financials and COVID-19. The UK. I mean, I mentioned that the mathematics of our job retention scheme costing 34 billion. I think the UK debt stands somewhere. I think I read at 2 trillion, or will stand at 2 trillion. So, and the UK just is, I think, in parallel with many other countries. It's not alone. So we're going to see across Europe, across the world, levels of debt that none of us, none of the panelists, none of the people who we generally meet will probably have ever experienced in their lifetime. and as far as a world level of world debt. I've always been a supporter of a collaborative world type approach, and that's clearly for me a big one of the real benefits, or one of the real pluses about the biotech industry, is that collaboration cross-border of great minds. And I can't help but think, and this is only I'm not an economist, this is my personal view, but we are not, no country is going to solve the COVID debt problem alone. And obviously we have the challenge of distributing vaccine around the world. The OECD were already looking at the future of taxation, and there is no doubt that there will be a temptation in lots of countries to just raise taxes to pay for COVID-19. No tax raising proposals will get you anywhere close to the sort of numbers you would need to collect to try and actually pay down that level of debt. So there's going to have to be some sort of worldwide, or in my opinion, there's going to have to be some sort of worldwide collaboration to address, at some point in the future, to address debt on a world basis. And my real hope is that as part of that collaboration, we start to think, on a more global basis around opportunities as well. And so, the life science industry is probably almost at the forefront of this. You talk about incentives, you talk about new forms of taxation. We could create. This could be the opportunity to create a new approach to both benefiting us in terms of reducing tax, but making a more dynamic world economy as well. And clearly, the biotech industry could be right at the centre of that.
Thank you, Gary. Any thoughts from the other panelists?
Jivko, I might take the word. Yeah, as Gary said, we will see at the end who is going to pay the bill. Like everywhere, the governments might really push into really increasing the taxes in different countries. Yeah, I mean, this idea came this spring, and looking through the prism of the entrepreneurs in Bulgaria, we know that that might be really dangerous. So it should be really a careful move. But anyway, probably we are going to see that in the next year or so. But also the good thing is that the current crisis really, let's say, released the overheating of the local human capital market, for example. Also, as Gary said, we are striving more collaboration, cross-border collaboration. And now, during that COVID, let's say, lockdown and the crisis, and we've been able to promote many products that other way probably would have waited for 2, 3, 5 years in order to be, sometimes being too early is still early. So some products really came right on time. And I believe that, of course, we need to focus over the real challenges. And there are really a light race in the air, some of the government-funded programs, like the programs that are coming from us. But also there are certain market forces that looks a little bit better right now during the COVID. I know that sounds a little bit cynic, but it is like this. And that is really opening some opportunities for companies, for businesses, especially for businesses that are really monetizing over innovation. Hence the businesses that we are discussing in those 2 days, biotech, life science industries. So focus over the opportunities and cross-border markets and market needs and demand that we currently have.
And if I would jump in and build upon I think there is also one more quite crucial driver, and this is reinventing the business model. So aside from everything already mentioned, it seems that now, while yes, we are having hard times, and we may have, as mentioned by Gary, hard times paying the bill. On the same time, business institutions, schooling system, and basically every aspect of our society needs to reinvent and iterate completely all the old models, which essentially hopefully will bring enough added value to offset at least part of the cost, because nobody would have ever thought just probably 1 year ago that schools could be digital in Bulgaria, or that offices will be empty and people are going to work actually more than they used to before. So at the end of the day, every coin has at least two sides, and there's definitely a lot of added value for business just reinventing and rethinking the old concepts.
Well, then, thank you. Actually, we are well ahead of time, and I would like to close the panel by giving you the floor for a final remark. Please keep it short, because otherwise our technical host will disconnect us.
Okay, I'll be very short. I think that this crisis has been a sobering exercise for all of us, and it will pass. But I think that it will come out better in many aspects. Of course, there will be life loss. There will be businesses bankrupted, but at the end of the day, it's always been like this. And I think that this type of virus we will call it a blessing later down the road. Like in the next 10 years, I think it's going to be the decade of the biotech and the health tech industry disruption. I mean, what we've seen in social media, what we've seen actually in some aspect of AI and IoT, we will see this now in this area, and it will be fun to follow. It will be also very exciting to be an investor and an entrepreneur. That's from me.
Thank you. Any other thoughts?
I would agree with what Milen said. I mean, essentially, I'm still optimistic about the future. I'm one of life's optimists. I always think there are good things ahead. And clearly, these are challenging times, and we've all been tested. But there are also good news stories among that. Vaccine research. There are, people have, worked together to help each other. In the UK, people have tried. The health service have been fantastic. The care sector have been fantastic. And so we've also seen some of the best things about humans as well in these difficult times, and that gives me real hope for the future.
Thank you. Well, then I would like to really thank you all for the time and for the very interesting insights. I think it was a very insightful discussion, and we managed to combine different points of view and hopefully create also for the attendees the different understanding of how the funding of innovation, of life sciences innovation will look like, and basically what to expect. My takeaway from the panel is that we should, as a society, as a humanity, go ahead and really push on innovation, and this will be the basically the next step in our development. Thank you really, and hope to see you soon next year. We're having the biotech atelier again, so I really hope to see you offline, and stay in touch and stay safe.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.